She was the best thing that could have happened to me at that time in my life. And she began to build up what the world had torn down. And she began to coach me into the next phase of my life, telling me I could do this, I could do that. And whenever I would get scared or I would get a new job, I would call her and she said, baby, what about this scares you? You can do this. And she stuck with me until I finally was able to stand on my own or stand trusting completely in God. Amen. Amen. The first job I got was next door to the lady that told me I would never work for the state.
I'll do something.
And I was working for the state. Amen. I left that job and I went to Columbus Tech, working for the state. I left there and went to the Department of Family and Children Services, working for the state. Amen. I left there and went to Head Start, working for the state. Every paying job I've had has been working for the state. Amen. When I walked across the stage at Columbus State, God spoke to me and He told me the sky was the limit. I didn't ask Him what it meant. I didn't ask Him which job I was supposed to have or what I was supposed to do next. Because sometimes you just think you got enough instructions. But when God gives you instructions or He gives you something to do with your life, He has some steps for you to get there. But most of the time we just up and running, thinking we got it all figured out, instead of asking Him, how do I get there? And so when I worked at Defect, I became comfortable with the job that I was in, and I liked it. I wanted to stay there. And for no reason, I got fired. And I told God, I said, if I don't get a job in a month, then I'll write a book He had pressed upon my heart for years to write. But I got a job. I call it the job from hell. The first day I walked in there, I wondered, oh God, what am I doing here? But I asked for it. And I think I wrote my first resignation on that job about 2 weeks after I started. But then I stayed there. And I kept bargaining with God. One day I was driving toward Americus, Georgia, and I was just lost. I had been there countless times. My supervisor's office was there. And I was so afraid because I didn't know where I was. And I said, do I pull over on the side of the street? Who can I call that would be able to find me? I can't even give them landmarks. My mind had just literally just slipped for a second. And I said, okay, God, I'll do it your way. I'll write that book. And my mind came back. When I came home, I told my mother, and I said I'm going to quit my job, and I have no idea what I'm going to do after that. I was the only person in the house working. I had just got a new car. Amen. Had a daughter in college. And my mama said, don't turn the resignation in. She said, hold it. I said, but I have to leave this job or I'm going to lose my mind. She said, just hold it. So for 2 weeks, I held the resignation. One day my supervisor came in and told me to call in everybody that I supervised and tell them a certain time she wanted to meet with them. 15 minutes before that, she wanted to meet with me. And God spoke to me. He said, clear out your voicemail and clean off your computer. And I sat there, you know, I didn't quite move, but I had it in my mind what I would do if she was in fact using the fire. She came in and she did just that. I said, excuse me, 1 minute. And my butt, I was able to do what God had instructed me to do earlier. On my way home, I began to cry because I couldn't understand why God had allowed me to get the education to clear up my reputation, and now He wanted me to write the book. Because I understood fully well that I got fired twice in a row for no reason, other than God was telling me I had moved in the wrong direction. For 2 weeks I cried, night and day, but I was typing on the book. And my mother asked me one day, she said, why are you crying? She said, do you know God told you to write that book? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, well, write it then. And so I completed the book, and I was still wondering, I work for the state. When they find out I have this record, they find out I've done all these things, nobody's ever going to hire me again. How am I going to eat? How am I going to pay my bills? I'll never get another job. I never thought anybody would buy the book. It never crossed my mind that I was going to sell the book, because I was too caught up in my personal pain, my personal turmoil. I didn't want people to know what I had done. I didn't want to close the door on that chapter in my life. I like being called Miss Charlotte Russell Johnson. My reputation, in fact, became my God. Amen? Amen. It wasn't the car, it wasn't the house, it was just that I didn't want people to look down on me anymore. Well, I completed the book, and God had to nudge me and console me all the way through the process. My first book, the first month I sold 1,000 copies before it ever made it to a bookstore. That was 11 years ago. I don't know how many copies I've sold since then, but I've written 9 books at that time. Amen. I haven't missed a meal, I haven't lost any weight.
Come on.
I bought a few cars along the way. And God has been good. And his plan for my life was better than anything I could have imagined. Every day hasn't been easy. There's some times that I wondered if I was going to have enough money to pay the bills. But he has provided and he has sustained me. And he has used my life to bless more people than I ever dreamed. Amen. I've met people from across the world who have read one of my books. In the little circle I was trying to stay in, that never worked out. I had a little comfort zone that I wanted to stay in. But God had something better. And so that's why I can say today, in all your ways, acknowledge him. Accept the plan that he has for your life. It's better than anything you can think or imagine. It doesn't mean there won't be dark days along the way. It doesn't mean that sometimes you won't cry. But it does mean that the reward that he has waiting for you is better. It's more enduring than anything that you plan. I ask y'all to keep me and my family in prayer. Amen. That's my little mama. She's my special little mama. When I was in prison, God gave her a vision of us standing on the street corner ministry. I wasn't thinking about God at the time, and I thought she was crazy. Amen. I did. But she wasn't crying. She wasn't losing any sleep over me because God had assured her that one day it would change. Amen. I didn't tell her what I was thinking when she told me because I wanted her to keep sending me some money. But she told me, when she said it, I said, I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm not going to be out there in the hot. I'm not going to be out there in the cold. And I know I'm sure I can be standing up. Well, nowadays, if you go to a Piggly Wiggly or some other place, you get the right word on the right day, you'll probably see me and her out there. And you might think I'm just there selling books, but we're not. We're doing what God has called us to do. And we do it in the cold, we do it in the heat. I still can't stand to get too cold, still can't stand to get too hot. But I can do it outdoors when I'm doing the books. That's the only time. If you freeze and cold, I'm fine while I'm sitting there. When I get home, I got the heater and I'm balled up in a knot. But he's giving me the grace to do what he called me to do. And he'll do the same for you. If you just allow him to. That's your best. Amen. Thank you.
you need